Hi Priscilla, my name's Anna, lovely to meet you. I've been in contact with my colleague who you saw last time you were in, and I'd just like to discuss the assessment process that you and Daniel went through and talk about those results as well. So from her notes, it sounds like Daniel's a very well socially adjusted young man with his siblings and at daycare. So it was really good to hear that he's active and engaged in conversation. And it sounds like he's a really healthy young boy and he's just having a little bit of trouble putting all of his words together. So as you mentioned to my colleague, Daniel has some trouble saying the letters F and S and R, and he keeps switching those out for D's and B's. And that's something that we picked up on as well through those tests that you did the other day. So you've hit the nail on the head there. I'll be able to show you exactly in those test results where that's happening for Daniel in his speech. So the test that we had Daniel do is called the Diagnostic Evaluation of Articulation and Phonology, but I'll just shorten that one down to DEEP, the acronym, save ourselves that mouthful. So the DEEP assessment is designed to find any indicators of speech disorder in young children. It's comprised of 5 different assessments, and the entire screening process can be changed and tailored depending on the child's individual speech and needs. So not everyone needs to do the full 5 tests. There's no extra unnecessary waiting around, so it's a happy day for everyone involved. And I'll run you through those tests that Daniel did with the DEEP. First up was the diagnostic screening, which is the test that every child will need to do. This initial test is just naming 10 objects and pictures so we can see what sounds the children are able to produce and which sounds they don't have. We can calculate a inconsistency assessment to get some data on any variances in the way that each word is pronounced, as they are required to name each object twice. And so from there, we have a bit of an idea of where their language is sitting and what areas we need to test further. So there are 4 subtests after that first test there, but Daniel only needed to do 1. He just needed to do the phonology assessment, which is where we're looking at any error patterns in speech, such as how he can swap the D's and B's for those trickier sounds. After the DEEP is all completed, we then have the child's phonetic inventory, so we know what sounds that they have that they're able to build the blocks of words with, and we know what areas they're struggling with, and we can have any indication of a language delay as well. So I'll take you through Daniel's results and explain to you why we chose the phonology subtest. So from his screening, it looks like he has a perfectly normal phonetic inventory, which is really good, so he can make all the sounds that we expect someone of his age to be able to make. This shows that his actual articulation is fine. His consistency score was 20%, which is well within the ranges of his age group as well. It's just his pronunciation of the words as a whole, which wasn't always correct. So when children are learning to speak, they make these error patterns, which is what Daniel does when he switches the B's and D's for the T's and F's. So children grow out of these error patterns as their language develops. So Daniel's going through all of these language stages, learning just as everyone else does, but he does have 1 or 2 patterns that most children have progressed past by now. So that's what we wanted to look for in the phonology assessment. And the phonology assessment is very, very similar to the diagnostic screening. It just has 50 words rather than the 10. And we compare the way that an adult would pronounce the word to the way that Daniel has pronounced the word. And we go through and find any patterns in the differences between those 2 pronunciations. We can break it down a little bit more and find out the overall percentage of consonants that he said correctly, which he got a score of 36% correct. And we can also rank him in comparison to other children of his age. So that's he got a standard score of 3 and a percentile rank of 1. So these results do actually indicate that Daniel is a little bit delayed and a little bit below average in comparison to other children of his age. So I can explain to you about those error patterns. So he's got all of the normal ones we would expect, but he does have a few, as I said, that he hasn't quite progressed past yet. So the main one that I've noticed is stopping, which is when you replace an F or an S with a B or a D or a T, which you've already picked up on. He's also displaying voicing. So that's when you substitute a sound that didn't originally have a voice to it with one that has a voice. So that might be a T to a D, so a T to a D. Daniel's stopping is only delayed by a few months, but the voicing is delayed by almost a year. However, they do co-occur in Daniel's speech quite often. So my hypothesis is that once we address Daniel's stopping, the voicing will also fix up as well. And they're all very typical processes of a child's speech and language development. Pretty much every child experiences that. He did slip in a few atypical ones as well that I noticed. There was 2 instances where he switched a P for a V, but it's no major cause for concern. We can still definitely help your son. Yeah, so his speech essentially is a little bit delayed for his age, but only in the areas that I've just spoken about. Everything else seems to be pretty fine for him. Through both of the tests that we did, it's clear that he has the necessary bank of sounds. It's just putting all of those words together that's the trouble for him. So everything you and your childcare worker have picked up on is spot on. Thank you so much for bringing him in. We'll definitely be able to figure something out to get Daniel's speech on track. It was lovely to meet you, Priscilla. I hope you have a nice day and good luck in the future.